Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when it's dry or windy. Be careful burning yard waste, because wildfires can even start in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, lunch in Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Despite never having used them, Alison Peartree was not initially a fan of purple bricks.
Because I heard from my uncle's cousin's neighbour's dog walker they don't have proper estate agents.
But Alison's uncle's cousin's neighbour's dog walker was wrong. Purple Bricks have experienced local agents ready to sell your home.
Turns out Martin from Purple Bricks was very knowledgeable. And he didn't charge commission. I've even recommended him to my sister's boyfriend's auntie's hairdresser, Sharon.
Purple Bricks. Book your free valuation today.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing service cost extra.
Pancake day is flipping fun. Pancake day is Stella. This day will be a yummy one.
'Cause pancakes love Nutella.
Pancake Day is nearly here. Gather friends and family to enjoy some delicious pancakes on Tuesday the 25th of February. And don't forget, pancakes love Nutella.
Suffering from house embarrassment? At Wix, there's 15% off tiles and flooring. So maybe give the downstairs loo a go. Ends Monday. Exclusions apply.
The famous five were at home discussing their next adventure. "Let's visit Tower Bridge," said Dick. "Or Cardiff Castle," added Julian. "St Michael's Mount," cried Anne. Dick jumped up. "Wherever we're going, we'll need to leave right now." "Relax," said George. "It's faster than you think by train. Anyway, we can't go yet. You're still in your pyjamas." With faster journeys across our network, adventures are closer than you think. Great Western Railway. Adventures start here. Terms and conditions apply. Selected routes only.
Set for Life is the game from the National Lottery where you can win 10 grand every month for 30 years. So go smash this month, next month, and make every month amazing. Play Set for Life Mondays and Thursdays.
Set for Life from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Prize may be capped. Rules, procedures, and game-specific rules apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Build the trolley with your favourite brands for less at Asda. Mix and match across beauty products like Tresemme, Sure and Simple and get any two for only £3. Big brands, small prices. Don't compromise. Asda. Save money, live better. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Prices range from £1.50 to £2.45.
The government and the NHS are prepared to deal with coronavirus. You can help too. The best way to protect yourself and others is to wash your hands with soap and water or use a sanitizer gel regularly throughout the day. Catch your cough or sneeze in a tissue, bin it, and wash your hands. If you have recently arrived back from specified areas, follow the returning traveller advice. Check the list of areas and find out more at nhs.uk/coronavirus.
3, 2, 1, lift off!
What have you done with my OCT eye scanner? I'm supposed to be doing an eye scan with Mrs. Green.
We launched it like you said.
Well, I meant launch it to the public, not on a rocket.
Oh.
Tell them how it takes a hospital-grade 3D image that could help detect eye conditions up to 4 years earlier.
Oh, sugar.
And that it's available at Specsavers.
Oh, and now also in outer space.
Introducing our most advanced eye exam with OCT scans. Search Specsavers OCT to find out more. Charge applies. OCT available at selected stores.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, they are all trading lower at or near the worst level of the day. Let's head right over to the First Word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. And here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks under pressure today amid coronavirus worries. Dow's currently down 271 points. S&P's dropped 41, and the NASDAQ declines by 2%. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.46%. Gold trading higher by 25. Small caps drop 11 points. And just 3 of the main 11 S&P sectors are trading higher, with gains in real estate, consumer staples, and utilities. Tech and consumer discretionary led to the downside. Nasdaq Biotechs fall 6 points. Transports decline 121. Semis dropped 3.1%, with 7% declines in AMD and 6% declines in NVIDIA. The VIX is trading higher by 15%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Travelers, J&J, and UTX, while Microsoft, Apple, and Nike led to the downside. After earnings, Deere rose as much as 9.7% to a record, and Dropbox rose 20%. In deal news, eBay moves towards selling its classified ads business. Live from the First Word breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
We thank you very much, Bill Maloney. We'll have more on the Deere story for you coming up in a moment. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type Squawk, SQUAWK, on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so we want to take a look at one stock that's actually not lower in today's session. In fact, it's up about 7.5% off its highs of the day. We're talking about Deere & Company, surging the stock, that is, the most since 2016, a surprise growth in farm recovery. So let's get into the company's most recent quarter. Brooke Sutherland knows it well. She's our deals and industrials columnist at Bloomberg Opinion. She joins us in our Interactive Brokers studio. Was this a surprise?
I think it was a surprise just because there's been, a pretty steady drumbeat of negative news out of the manufacturers. Deere is sort of coming in here at the end of the industrial earnings season, and it was a rough fourth quarter out there for most of the manufacturing sector. And so I think to see this surprise profit growth, this talk of green shoots, especially on a day when the news otherwise is suggesting a lot of continued uncertainty and downbeat outlooks, I think is why you're seeing the stock react the way it did.
Right. And as you say, sort of counter to what we had heard, what are they doing differently from everybody else?
I don't know that they're doing anything differently. I mean, I will say, so one of the things that's been interesting with manufacturing is there was this huge expectation that we would see a sharp rebound once we did finally get that U.S.-China trade deal. Now, that hasn't happened, and one of the reasons why is that it was a relatively modest slowdown for most of the manufacturing sector, and there weren't really, this huge drop-off in orders and in demand and in some of these pockets. You did, however, see that with agriculture, and that's because of the tariffs that have really, seen China significantly curtail their purchases. And so the fact that China, may now be coming back to the market, making significant agricultural commitments, should be a boon to farmers' confidence and their willingness to spend on this expensive machinery. Now, on the other hand, that depends on the coronavirus not messing all of that up, which I think is a huge question mark.
Right, and there's a headline that we ran, I guess, coming out of their call is that they're undertaking supply contingencies amid the coronavirus, right? So they're thinking about, okay, I guess if this goes on longer, how's that going to impact us? How do we kind of mitigate that impact?
And that is where this will really hurt industrial companies. So what's been interesting is the trade war certainly hit manufacturers worse than some of the consumer companies. The coronavirus might be the other way around, where if you were going to buy a Starbucks latte, you were going to go see a movie, you were going to go see a cruise. If you have to cancel those activities, you're not going to suddenly repeat them in excess in the days when you come back.
Right.
Whereas manufacturing,
I'm having 4 Starbucks lattes today
and I'm
because I didn't
3 movies and take 5 cruises. Maybe
nothing
not
but cruising.
So whereas manufacturing, it will come back, and as long as the demand holds up in some of the other parts, you can see that made up. But the concern is on the supply chain, and so now you have Deere, and Nissan has also. There's a Bloomberg News report that they're concerned about getting parts to all of their international operations because you have these very globalized, far-flung supply chains, and that was very in vogue 20 years ago, and then those have come under significant scrutiny, not least of all because of the trade war, but now because of the coronavirus.
Is that really really going to change, Brooke? I do wonder if people are going to have kind of mini supply chains all around the world.
I think they will. I think they have to. I mean, I think at this point in time, you cannot have. I mean, I had the pleasure of hosting the CEO of Aviva earlier this week for an interview, and they provide industrial software, and he was saying, look, you can't have your part shut down, and you need to get a spare, and you can't get it for weeks because China's closed down because of the coronavirus, or all of a sudden it costs so much more. So they, sell industrial software to do predictive maintenance. So you can know when there's going to be a downtime, and you can plan for that accordingly. But for a lot of these other companies, you're going to want to have localized operations that can supply that operation. Now, that might make the pain more acute.
Right.
You have a situation like the coronavirus, but at least it doesn't affect your healthier geographies.
Yeah, he joined us on air. Yeah, it was really fascinating, right, to hear. But it's interesting to hear your bigger picture because your universe is so huge in terms of those industrial companies.
All right, speaking of your universe, it would be journalistic malpractice if we had you here and didn't ask you about like the various turnarounds that you've been following, be it Boeing or GE. What's sort of jumping out to you in the latest and greatest in those sagas?
So I think GE has started to turn the corner, which is nice to see because it's been a long time coming. But Larry Culp has made a lot of progress there, and I think he's, much more so than a lot of the skeptics, including myself, had anticipated. Now there's still a long way to go, but it does seem like the worst is behind that company. Now for Boeing, the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
This week we had the news that they, have found rags and other debris in the fuel tanks for some of the stored 737 MAX jets, and now
ignored that warning light.
And the warning light,
right?
But that's been out there they knew about it and they didn't tell the FAA. But now the question, of course, is do they have to pay a penalty for that?
Okay.
And so that these penalties could be as much as $34,000 per plane. And there were some 300 planes that were out there with this warning light that was deficient. And so as you start adding up the costs that Boeing has to face from this crisis, that's certainly another one that you have to add.
Do they recover from this?
I think they do, but not necessarily on their own merits. I think that they are the beneficiaries of a duopoly with Airbus, and the reality is if you are an airline that needs a plane right now, you're going to the back of a 6-7 year backlog at Airbus to get those jets. So you just do not have that option. But I do think, in terms of does Boeing actually learn its lesson, I'm hopeful that it does. I'm hopeful that the industry puts that pressure on the company, but certainly the market dynamics are relatively supportive of this company, sort of continuing to run its business as it has been.
All right. Great stuff, as always.
Yeah,
so smart.
thank
Brooke Sutherland, Deals and Industrials columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, talking to us about Deere, Boeing, GE, all the fun ones.
And we found out her guilty pleasure is Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, well, I think what happens in the break stays in the break, Carol.
I'm sorry.
That's
actually a cool show.
It is
a great
show. It could be worse.
Thank you.
Good. All right.
Yeah, I didn't say Housewives of Beverly Hills or anything.
That's yours.
That's mine. Totally.
You're listening to Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks are falling further in the final hour. Investors are seeking safety ahead of the weekend amid renewed concern about the coronavirus. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 261. The S&P 500 down 40. The Nasdaq Composite down 193. The $35 bag fee is gaining traction among U.S. airlines. United is joining JetBlue in raising its fee for the first checked bag. The cost for a second bag is rising to $45. Golden Nugget is offering to buy the bankrupt Palm Steakhouse chain for $50 million. It's the latest effort by Landry's, the parent of Golden Nugget, to buy up distressed restaurant chains. Landry's already owns Morton's Steakhouses. How would you like a Tesla Cybertruck? Mattel has unveiled a limited edition Hot Wheels Cybertruck. The $400 remote-controlled truck features both chill and sport speed modes. There's also a 3-inch version complete with racetrack. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Fill the trolley with your favourite brands for less at Asda. Mix and match across beauty products like Tresemme, Sure and Simple and get any two for only £3. Big brands, small prices. Don't compromise. Asda. Save money, live better. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Prices range from £1.50 to £2.45.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn. When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Tomorrow, the sports world celebrates the lives of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna with a memorial at Staples Center in Los Angeles.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
Buckle up for Kobe! Lakers repeat back-to-back titles!
Wherever you are tomorrow morning, you can listen live to Kobe's celebration of life on TuneIn. Beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Search Celebrating the Life of Kobe Bryant to honor the basketball legend and his family.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon N.A. Member FDIC.
And privacy terms can be found at bevel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
How should investors be positioning?
We go there.
Talk about export numbers because they've been quite shocking. Korea, we saw Singapore, Japan too.
Sunday night at 6 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, we're going to talk with Dave Wilson. Ding dong. He's going to talk about pizza.
Yeah, he's going to talk about Domino's Pizza. So his chart of the day.
Give it away.
I know.
It's a tease.
So maybe he's not going to talk.
Tease,
maybe he's not
Master.
going to talk about Domino's Pizza.
Maybe
he's going to talk
is.
about somebody else.
Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't.
Maybe he's not.
You'll have to tune in.
Now you don't know.
Now you don't know.
All right, but we do know that we have to get a check on your top business stories and a look at the trading day. We've got 29 minutes to go, Charlie.
Indeed, red on the screen, but green for Domino's. Shares up by 0.1%, but the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all bouncing along the bottom right now. Stocks are sinking. Gold is surging. Treasury yields tumbling as investors take a defensive stance amid renewed concern about the economic impact of the coronavirus as it spreads outside of China. The Dow down 281 points right now. That is a drop of 1%. S&P 500 index at 3331, down 42, down 1.2%. And NASDAQ is down 200 points now for NASDAQ. That is a drop of just over 2%. The European Central Bank expects the euro area economy to bounce back from the coronavirus outbreak. In an interview with Bloomberg Radio and Television, Chief Economist Philip Lane played down concerns that the region could slip into a downturn that requires another interest rate cut.
If the recovery happens as we expect, then in terms of the medium-term policy challenge, it remains something that is not going to change our base case. But it's definitely a downside risk until we see the containment, until we see the recovery after that. We have to keep a close eye.
The $35 check bag fee is gaining traction as U.S. airlines contend with the financial fallout of the grounding of the 737 MAX jet and a viral pandemic that has decimated travel to China. United Continental Holdings increasing the charge for passengers' first and second check bags by $5, up to $35 for your first check bag, $45 for the second. UAL shares lower now by 2.7%. eBay taking steps for a potential sale of its classified ads business, as according to Dow Jones, citing sources, unit could be worth $10 billion. eBay shares, they are higher now by 1.1%. After earnings, Deere up by 6.9%. 10-year, 1.45% on the yield. Gold up 1.7%, $16.46 the ounce. Crude down 1%. West Texas Intermediate, $53.37 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio. Nice. It's a great Van Morrison song.
Yes.
Not about pizza, but
I love Van Morrison.
It's a woman named Domino, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you know, our producer Paul Brennan picked that song, and I was good with it.
Yeah.
So why not? Absolutely.
And that's a high bar to meet your standards for a song choice.
Yeah, well, if you say so, Jason, I'll accept that. And, you know, you already talked about, I might talk about Domino's Pizza, I might not. How about if I talk about a couple of other companies as well?
Okay.
That would be Alphabet, the owner of Google, and Salesforce.com. Here's what they have.
Oh, if I had a nickel for every time somebody was talking about Domino's Pizza, Salesforce, and Alphabet.
I know.
They are all members of what I call in the chart story the IPO class of 2004. They all went public that year, in fact, within a couple of months of each other. And you look back, and they have been the three best performers of that class when you look at total returns, which, you know, in the case of Domino's, include dividends and some pretty substantial ones. There was a $12 special payout, a $3 special payout, and they've been paying regular dividends along the way as well. In fact, you know, since they resumed them roughly 7 years ago, the payouts almost doubled. So when you put that all together, going back to when Domino's went public, as of yesterday, the stock had a return of 5,370%.
That is nuts.
It's staggering. And really, it's come on the last few years as Domino's has kind of rejiggered its business, made its pizzas more appetizing, whatever they did. It's worked out not only for people who buy the pizza, but for people who own the shares. Now, I had actually done a chart back in 2016 when Domino's was ahead of Alphabet in return. So that's nothing new. What's new off the stock's gain of about 26% yesterday is that they're catching up to Salesforce in terms of total returns, which is really nuts when you think about it. That stock, going back to June 2004, had a return of more than 6,900%. And just to show you how one day can kind of change things, that 26% jump in Domino's increased the return for the entire time period, going back to 2004, by more than 1,100%.
It's nuts.
Wow. It is crazy. And if you want to see all this for yourself, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
I'm going to tweet it out because I think that is just wild.
Can I make one comment about Domino's, though?
What?
So here's I'm totally into
Is this going to be about the pizza?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally into all the rejiggering they've done. That's great.
Yeah.
And they're working on essentially the supply chain of pizza. The app is cool and things like that. But they advertise this sort of weird guarantee that if you pick up the pizza and it falls out of your car or gets run over, they'll replace it.
Is that real?
That's the latest thing they've been advertising.
Right.
Yeah. But if they don't get the toppings right,
yeah.
If it shows up cold, if it's not exactly what you ordered, they'll send you another pizza.
Does that mean if you picked it up and you drop it, they're going to replace it?
They're going to replace it.
Are they really going to do that?
I'm sure they will, but
Domino's,
how often
are you really
does that happen?
Well, in the ads that I've seen, it's for home deliveries. Which, if you think about it, you're ordering online.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to end up not necessarily going out to the store.
I like it.
You'll get it at home. And so that's where the guarantee has come in. At least that's what I remember from the ads that I've seen.
But I do think part of it is the underlying message is, look, we're really into customer service. We want it to be right. I just find the idea of you're driving at home and you hit a pothole and it falls out of the box. It's I need a new pizza. It's how that.
Well, it's really the company's responsibility as opposed to you, the consumer, I suppose.
But is it true? If you hit a speed bump?
Yeah, I'll show you the
floor?
ad. Yeah, I'll show you the ad. They're it's
it's the Kelly household again. They hit up a speed bump and they need a new pizza. I don't understand.
They took that turn on Bellwood a little sharp.
Yeah, but of course you do it one too many times and maybe they cut you off.
Exactly.
That's why I say it's the Kelly family again.
Exactly. Some screen pops up where they're we don't believe you. All right, Dave Wilson, thank you so much.
I'm going to put that chart out at Twitter
at
Carol Master because it's a killer.
All right, good stuff. We'll see you after the close of trading, Dave, for your
Have you tried it? Have you called them and said I dropped my
Well, no, because I don't drop my pizza. If I go pick it up, it just, I get it home safely.
That's a snort. That's how funny it is.
There were multiple snorts in that segment.
All right.
Coming up, we're going to get you to the drive to the close. We're going to have the drive to the close of trading this week. First, let's get to Bob Moon. He's got World and National Online.
Jason, thank you. We know this much from a jury deliberating the fate of movie mogul Harvey Weinstein in New York. They've reached unanimous verdicts on charges of rape and a criminal sexual act. They told the judge that in a note this afternoon without indicating whether they decided Weinstein was guilty or not. They also informed the judge they were deadlocked on the most serious charge Weinstein faces, 2 counts of predatory sexual assault. That's the charge that could put the 67-year-old Hollywood executive in prison for the rest of his life. Earlier, reporters greeted Weinstein on the courthouse steps as he arrived for the jury's 4th day of deliberations.
How are you feeling today?
He did not respond. And at this hour, Weinstein, once one of the most powerful men in the movie industry, is left to await word from the jury. They were told to keep working to see if they can agree on those remaining 2 counts. The leader of the World Health Organization calls it worrisome. A top U.S. official calls it a tremendous threat. There's concern because they can't explain where some new cases of the coronavirus came from. They're happening outside China with no clear links to someone who has traveled in China or to other confirmed cases. Briefing reporters on a teleconference today, Dr. Nancy Messonnier of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said pinning down each and every case is critical for one major reason.
This new virus represents a tremendous public health threat. We don't yet have a vaccine for this novel virus, nor do we have a medicine to treat it specifically.
China is now reporting 892 new cases there, bringing its total to more than 75,500. Global News, 24 hours a day. I'm Bob Moon.
Hey, y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Are you? The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Tomorrow, the sports world celebrates the lives of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna with a memorial at Staples Center in Los Angeles.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
Buckle up for Kobe! Lakers repeat back-to-back titles!
Wherever you are tomorrow morning, you can listen live to Kobe's celebration of life on TuneIn. Beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Search Celebrating the Life of Kobe Bryant to honor the basketball legend and his family.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Distribution channels or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/Seize Change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Red on the screen right now. Stocks close to the lows of the day with the S&P down 38. That is a drop of 1.1% at 33.34 right now on the S&P. The Dow trading below 28,963, down 256 points, lower by 0.9%. NASDAQ is down 182 points, a drop right now of 1.9%. We've got the 10-year up 15-30 seconds with a yield of 1.46%, 30-year yield 1.91%, gold up 1.6% at $16.45 the ounce for gold. That is an advance of $26 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 1%, 53.34 a barrel. Recapping stocks lower heading into the close here. 12 minutes to go with the S&P down 39, lower by 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the drive to the close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
And it is time for the drive to the close. Carol and I just taking care of some important business and learning about both the carry-out insurance and delivery insurance for Domino's Pizza. Thanks to Dave Wilson.
And thank you to Mauricio, who noted that I did snort on air several times.
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
Because it was kind of amusing.
Yeah, well, I'm here to amuse you.
Not so amusing as today's trade.
Yeah,
no, you're always
not as amusing. John Adams is here with us, Senior Investment Strategist for BMO Global Asset Management, joining us on the phone from Chicago, where I'm guessing it's even colder than it is here in New York City. So, John, it feels like the market caught up today with maybe some of the more existential worries that are out there related to coronavirus.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. It is, in fact, very, very cold in Chicago today. But yeah, we're definitely closing the week on a negative note today. We got some weak U.S. service sector data to start out the day, and then we're seeing some increased concerns about the economic outlook and the idea that the impact from coronavirus may be longer lasting than previously expected, with an increase in the number of cases outside of China and the potential for some additional supply chain disruption.
Well, yeah, and that's certainly, you can see it in the trade. I also feel like we're just getting to a point, until we get containment of this, why would you want to take too much of a position ahead of a weekend?
Yeah, I think it is continuing to hang over the market. We are seeing a record low now in the U.S. 30-year, to your point about not wanting to take risk into the weekend. So,
can we talk about that 30-year, though? That is not just, though, coronavirus, or is it, in your view?
I think it's partially the coronavirus. I think it's also partially just concerns about weaker economic growth overall. You know, we have been a bit longer duration in our portfolios as a partial hedge to our equity overweight, and that has been a good view for us.
All right, so how do you look at equities in this market? How do you look at them domestically? How do you look at them internationally? Essentially, how do you build a portfolio given everything that's going on around the world?
Sure, yeah, we think it's definitely a case for a diversified portfolio. So on the equity side, we remain overweight equities with a bias toward the U.S., and I would say their policy continues to be the main driver for us. We think the Fed will remain supportive. If we do see softness in economic growth or weaker inflation or a continued headwind from coronavirus impact, we think the Fed can and will step in at that point. From a valuation standpoint, we think that U.S. equities are only moderately expensive when viewed relative to both current interest rates and the inflationary outlook. And so against that overweight equities, we're also modestly overweight duration as a partial hedge against that overweight equities.
All right, so it's hard to, I guess, assess how this year's going to play out. I mean, I know it's only February, but I do wonder that I keep saying that the virus is just a reminder that things can come from nowhere, right? And we're anticipating. I mean, obviously it's an election year. We're anticipating potentially another round of U.S.-China trade. We'll see if that actually happens. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff out there that can certainly, upset investors.
Yeah, I would say we're still pretty optimistic on the outlook for this year. We have gotten off to a pretty good start on the year. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are always kind of global macro risks, and I would say that the two front of mind for us are the U.S. election and coronavirus. On the election, we think the markets are really looking through that to an extent for the time being. We do think that even if Sanders were to be elected, the Senate would likely remain a Republican, and so we think that more ambitious plans likely wouldn't get through. I think the market's taking that as a positive. If you have a Trump reelection, if you have a moderate candidate on the Democratic side, or even if you have a progressive candidate, as long as Democrats don't take the Senate, that should be neutral to positive for equity markets.
All right, we're going to leave it there. John Adams, thank you so much. Senior Investment Strategist for BMO Global Asset Management, joining us on the phone from chilly Chicago. So let's just take a quick look at what's most read at this point. You know, we do start to get a sense of, in the same way that markets and investors I'm going to sell off a little bit before we get into the weekend, don't want a lot of exposure, sort of what's on people's minds as we get here.
Can I just say, the most read story in the past 60 minutes has to do with the Weinstein jury partially being deadlocked, and the judge is saying, keep on going. So that's your number one read story on the Bloomberg in the past 60 minutes. Number two.
This one is really something.
Wow. So JP Morgan warning of a climate threat, or the warning of climate threat to human life as we know it. The most extreme risks of climate change can't be ruled out, including the collapse of human civilization, according to JP Morgan Chase.
Yeah.
Wow, this is coming from their economists, David Mackey and Jessica Murray. They put out a January 14th report to clients, and they say the response to climate change should be motivated not only by central estimates of outcomes, but also by the likelihood of extreme events. We cannot rule out catastrophic outcomes where human life, as we know it is threatened. I mean, if you want to know about the ultimate black swan, well, there it is, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And they basically say that. I mean, these two JP Morgan economists, or analysts, I should say, talking about that. Yeah, as you say, that could be the black swan. And, it is interesting to think about that at a time where it feels like, whether you're thinking back to Davos just a month or so ago, where climate came to the fore, But you also do have a real political divide in this country, at least.
Still.
Less so in Europe.
Yeah.
And, you've seen the European Union take a lot of steps to invest very heavily from a government perspective, the private sector stepping in. And yet you have a huge division here in the United States. And we're seeing it candidly, and this was alluded to by John Adams, even in the range of Democratic candidates, and certainly in the differences between the Democratic side and the Republican side.
It's interesting. They say predictions of the economic damage are probably, quote, far too small. The bank's economist wrote in this note, economic models struggle to deal with low probability events that could prove catastrophic. And that is the point. Remember we did a few weeks ago, where we talked about how researchers who've been pretty accurate in assessing the impact of climate change, and all of a sudden their models are saying everything is happening sooner than everybody forecast. And that's kind of the point. And these economists are pointing that, when there's a low probability of something happening, that our ability to assess it, especially when it can be many times worse, it's not so great. And I
wonder how soon this starts to play out through the markets, specific stocks, whatever it is. But we are looking at a market where the S&P at least is off its lows, like significantly off its lows. We've had a little bit of a run at least toward or away from the bottom, as it were. Now the S&P now down about 1%. It had been down significantly more.
We are down 1.4% for the week on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Overall, S&P down about 1%, and the Nasdaq down about 1.3% as we head into the close. So certainly a very different tone to the trade for this week. Stick around though. We will have the closing bell and also take a look at some of the stocks, the specific stocks on the move in the Friday trade. You are listening and watching Bloomberg Business Week.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right. Use it. To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
A PAC needs someone to follow.
It's got to be important for somebody to have a breakout moment.
Don't look now, but they're behind you.
Imports declined 2.8%.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
Sources tell us that agreement is expected to include commitments on U.S. intellectual property.
With Karen Moscow and Nathan Hager.
Could we see that play into the results and the forward guidance?
Weekday mornings at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Folks from RBC Capital Markets and Ronald McDonald House ringing that closing bell, and it is on to the weekend. A losing Friday with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all declining. S&P down 35 points, a drop there of 1%. Dow Industrials down 225 points, a drop of 0.8%. NASDAQ lower by 174 points, a drop of 1.8%. 10-year up 13 seconds yield this Friday, 1.46%. 30-year yield, 1.91%. Stocks sank, gold surged, treasury yields tumbled as investors took a defensive stance amid renewed concern about the economic impact of the coronavirus as it spreads outside of China. John Adams is senior investment strategist at BMO Global Asset Management.
We got some weak U.S. service sector data to start out the day, and then we're seeing some increased concerns about the economic outlook and the idea that the impact from coronavirus may be longer lasting than previously expected, with an increase in the number of cases outside of China and the potential for some additional supply chain disruption.
And this headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Democratic presidential contender Michael Bloomberg says he is now open to releasing 3 non-disclosure agreements. Bloomberg is the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, parent company of Bloomberg Radio. On a down day for the rest of the market, we had shares of Deere rallying by 7%. The machinery giant delivered an unexpected increase in earnings and maintained its annual outlook as early signs of stabilization in the U.S. farm sector offset a slowdown in construction. Again, shares up the most in 3 years. Deere running higher by 7%. Dropbox shares soared after the company boosted both its 2020 and long-term operating margin. Dropbox surging by 19.9%. Gold up 1.5%, $16.43 the ounce. Recapping, stocks lower today with the S&P 500 index down 35, down 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Wild thing, think you move me. I got a few moves I know you'll like. Shake that blue thing, shake that blue thing, yeah.
Vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Just move on up toward your destination.
I can make things move without touching them.
Shaking all over.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Time to take a look at some of the stocks on the move in the Friday trade. Carol Masser along with Jason Kelly in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. All right, couple things. First of all, Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 1.5% for the week overall. S&P 500 down 1% for the week overall, which is pretty much what we saw in today's trade alone. The S&P was down 1% for the Friday trade. NASDAQ, which was down 1.8% in the Friday session, was down 1.4% for the week overall. So much of the losses that we saw really happened in today's trade. Concerns about the coronavirus, concerns about more of a lingering economic impact, and that has certainly weighed on investors' minds. Don't forget, you're also heading into a weekend, so investors may be wary of taking a position. As for the S&P 500, 130 names in the index higher today, 375 lower, Jason.
All right, nothing runs like a deer in today's market. Deere, your number one gainer, up 7%. Yeah. Great conversation. You should check it out that we had earlier in the show with Brooke Sutherland. So smart about all things industrial and really pointing out that Deere is an outlier coming at the end of all these industrial earnings, but painting a picture that is really interesting. Let's do a headline right now that is crossing the Bloomberg. Wells Fargo to pay $3 billion to settle probes into consumer abuses. So this coming after a very difficult few years with made-up accounts, like all sorts of things that they were doing, the practices where people were sort of ending up being treated as customers the way that they didn't expect to.
And I was going to say, late yesterday, I believe it was, that they were rumored to be near about a $3 billion to end the investigations. This would settle federal investigations into a range of consumer abuses that were rampant at the bank for years. And so we were expecting some kind of settlement. The Department of Justice and SEC were maybe expected to announce these penalties as early as today. So we are seeing them cross.
We got them.
Exactly. In terms of the share price, because many folks who look at the Wells Fargo story, though, say you've got to get all of this, the legal concerns, the settlements behind you before the company can start to really move forward and for investors to look at it in a different light. Stock, as Jason mentioned, is unchanged as we speak. It's down 11% for the year. But nonetheless, this is what they've got to get through.
New boss, Charlie Scharf, taking over CEO less than 6 months ago. This was a big thing on his list to sort of get this at least, if not all the way done, mostly done. And it feels like this is a big step forward. Still a lot of work to do for sure for Charlie Scharf, former lieutenant of Jamie Dimon, coming back over to run or going over to run Wells Fargo.
I want to mention the biggest decliner in the S&P 500. That's Hasbro. It was down 9% in today's session. I'm trying to find out why they've renewed.
China.
Is it okay.
So if I looked into this earlier, they have basically said there are a number of facilities that are going to remain closed in China. And so as the market started to trade off on coronavirus concerns, this was one of the names that came out. Hilton was another one that basically said about 33,000 rooms were essentially offline owing to closed hotels there in the region. So they were sort of in a wrap of a number of names that are being affected.
Oh, you're right. It was Apple, P&G, and Walmart. Because what's interesting is they just announced a new rights agreement for Disney's Marvel and Star Wars franchises, which normally would probably be a bit of a pop for the stock. Right? But you're right. In terms of the virus, more companies are coming out. There was an interesting story out there. I saw that on the terminal. What else are we watching?
I was just looking, excuse me. I was just looking at AMD. That's a name where an analyst came out and basically said, look, this stock's had a great run. Maybe it's time to cool down a little bit. That obviously one of the best performers last year, outperforming Intel, its long time rival. They've got a relatively new CEO, Lisa Su. She was on the Bloomberg 50, I believe. So doing a great job, clearly. But one analyst saying, a trader saying that AMD could see a 35% decline after this massive run. I do want to point out that Wells Fargo is trading up a little bit, about 0.5%. The after hours based on that headline about the settlement.
Yeah, just a little bit higher there. All right, let's look at the VIX. The VIX on this Friday, no surprise, the stock sold off for the VIX to spike, and it did go up just about shy of 11%. The VIX closing on this Friday at 17.21. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up. Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson. Open up the door. It's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson, Dave Wilson, back with us in our Interactive Brokers studio. What's your stock?
American Software, Jason. It's a company that helps businesses track their supplies, sales, and operations, and provides consulting services. The company's been around for 50 years, and its Class A stock has been publicly traded now for 37 years. The ticker is AMSWA. American Software shares peaked at a record in March 2000 after surging at the end of an internet-driven bull market. They gave back the entire gain within months and have been trying to recover ever since. American Software came closer than ever today to its 20-year-old high, thanks to a well-received earnings report. Fourth quarter profit was more than double the average analyst estimate in the Bloomberg survey, and revenue was also well above projections. American Software benefited from growth in subscription fees and in contracts for internet-based programs, cloud computing. Revenue increases in both categories approached 60%. The results sent American Software shares to their biggest gain since December 2008. They climbed almost 21% on the day.
Wow. Big move.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your follow-up related to the pizza insurance. Very helpful. So both carry out and delivery insured. Carol watched the ad and snorted.
Here I am doing like a bunch of things, and I all of a sudden looked up and I had like about 10 windows open on Domino's because of the ads and like all of this that's been going back and forth. But appreciate always the follow through, Dave Wilson.
There you go. All right, let's get some world and national headlines now. Bob Moon is here. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Jason. Jurors gave the judge and the rest of us a progress report today on their deliberations over the fate of movie mogul Harvey Weinstein. What they decide could put him behind bars for the rest of his life. The jury asked if they could be hung on the most serious charge Weinstein faces, 2 counts of predatory sexual assault. While they reported being deadlocked on those counts after 4 days of deliberating, they also said they've reached unanimous verdicts on charges of rape and a criminal sexual act. What they decided, they didn't say. The judge told them to keep deliberating. Michael Bloomberg's campaign says he's open to release 3 former employees from non-disclosure agreements. The founder and majority shareholder of Bloomberg radio parent Bloomberg LP came under intense pressure to do that during this week's debate in Las Vegas amid questions over his treatment of women. The Nevada caucuses play out tomorrow, followed quickly by South Carolina and then Super Tuesday. As Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports, the next few weeks could provide some clarity.
Bernie Sanders is ahead in current polls, but the different complexion of the voting populations in the Super Tuesday states could change that, political scientist Lara Brown of George Washington University said in a Bloomberg interview.
There are 6 southern states that vote that day. Those 6 states actually have more delegates collectively than California does individually. And those states are not necessarily teed up for Senator Sanders to run the table on.
Brown said Sanders would also be damaged if he stumbles in South Carolina, where a key part of a winning Democratic constituency resides. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
2 people who are as fascinated by the markets as you are.
What's your sense of the competitive landscape in the cloud business?
Lisa Abramowitz.
People were talking about potential regulatory pressure.
And Paul Sweeney.
Are you seeing flows into ESG ETFs?
Bloomberg Markets.
What's your main conversation today with some of these corporate executives?
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern.
They're spending a lot of money there.
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
This Monday, February 24th, the sports world celebrates the lives of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna with a memorial at Staples Center in Los Angeles.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
Buckle up for Kobe Bryant! The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles!
Wear
Wherever you are Monday morning, you can listen live to Kobe's Celebration of Life on TuneIn. Beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Search Celebrating the Life of Kobe Bryant to honor the basketball legend and his family.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing, LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
Message and data rate may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at Babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. It was a down Friday and a down week as well. For the week, the S&P 500 index dropped 1.25%. Today, stocks sank, gold surged, treasury yields tumbled as investors took a defensive stance amid renewed concern about the economic impact of the coronavirus as it spreads outside of China. S&P down 35, a drop there of 1%. Dow Industrials down 227 points, lower by 0.8%. NASDAQ down 174 points, a drop of 1.8%. 10-year up 13.30 seconds with the yield on the 10-year 1.46%. The 30-year yield 1.91%. Gold rallied $24 the ounce, up 1.5%. 16.43. West Texas Intermediate crude lower by 1%. 53.33 on WTI. Wells Fargo is going to pay $3 billion to settle U.S. investigations into more than a decade of widespread consumer abuses under a deal that lets the scandal-ridden bank avoid criminal charges. Wells Fargo shares up 2.6%. Recapping, a down day on Wall Street, down week as well. S&P fell 35 points, down by 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
As we walk in fields of gold.
The cannabis cannabis cultivator Golden Seed is among the first of its kind to earn approval for a nationwide public offering from the SEC. Call it, if you will, a mini IPO. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the cannabis business. Scott Goldie is with us. He's CEO of Santa Cruz-based Golden Seed, and he joins us in our Interactive Brokers studio on this Friday. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your business. And I mentioned to you before we got going off air that we had Joe Lusardi of Curaleaf in. So cannabis is certainly, and the industry, something we've talked a lot about over the last 2 years, going from, I think, a focus so much on the Canadian companies, a little bit more now on the U.S. companies, and now we're just trying to figure out, where the regulatory environment goes and what that means for the growth of the business. Tell us about your company.
Well, Golden Seed, we started a couple years ago, and initially to be a cultivator and to sell wholesale cannabis to the market. We got into a situation where our harvest was reduced with regulatory issues in California. And so we immediately went into the retail market with a product, a pre-rolled joint. And it was very unique in that we included a terpene, drop of terpene. And that's really the aroma and the flavor of the plant. So that same plant's flavor intensified in the joint. And essentially, the first two contests we entered, we won the Gold Cup. And our brand was really established. And to create enterprise value, I think in cannabis, you can't just be a cultivator. You have to have a lifestyle brand. And Santa Cruz is a perfect place for that.
I have to say, I was in Santa Cruz over Christmas break. That checks out. It is such a great laid-back part of the country. What's interesting too is your background is largely in real estate, environmental, land remediation. So, tie that together. What have you seen from sort of that background that sort of led you here?
Well, I've been a real estate developer in finance for 30 years. My own company for 20 years. About 5 years ago, we started buying operating companies that had real estate. The first big acquisition was the Napa Valley Wine Train. And so that ends up with 17 other pieces of property we could develop. About 3 years ago, the opportunity to buy a nursery in Santa Cruz County that sells conventional plants, that came to us. And so that business has essentially funded the start of the cannabis company. We've parceled off 20 acres that had the appropriate zoning and started that operation. So it's a real estate play, and it's also an operating company play.
But so give us a little bit of an idea of the outlook, because I think, we're trying to figure out kind of where does the industry go from here, because I think the regulatory environment is taking slower to evolve, certainly on a federal level, than everybody anticipated. And more states certainly are signing on in terms of medical marijuana and recreational. How do you see it, though?
For us out in California, it's still insulated, right? Because it's not a national market. The regulatory environment in California is very difficult. The legal market last year was about $3 billion. The black market in California is estimated at $8 billion.
Wow.
So, until they can get some really strong compliance and enforcement, that's going to continue to be a challenge.
And that challenge is the accepted industry, right? Or the legalized industry.
On the flip side of that, if you're a producer of legal cannabis, there's a great market for it.
Right. And so how does that imbalance get solved? What are the sorts of regulations, the sorts of laws, or I guess maybe just the sorts of enforcement that need to happen to sort of bring that essentially the other way, right? That the legal outweighs the illegal.
Well, first, I think the regulations need to be clarified and maybe simplified. It's been kind of a disaster the way it's unfolded in California. The big hurdles for legal weed is the pesticides, the testing that's required, the taxes, and there's very arcane rules that are different by every jurisdiction. I'm in 3 counties right now, 3 sets of rules. So it's very.
So this is largely regulated on the county level, not the state level?
Yeah, the state basically delegated the jurisdictions the right to create their own ordinances.
Wow.
Taxes are different, everything's different, even building permit standards. So it makes it really hard to have an enterprise that's in multiple areas.
I mean, here we've talked about how you have to be vertical in a single state because of the lack of obviously federal regulation or anything like that. I did not know that it went deeper, all the way down county to county.
I think that's ultimately going to be a challenge when this becomes federally legal. is you have all these different states have their own rules. All the counties and jurisdictions within the states have their own rules, and I think creating order to that type of market it's gonna be a challenge.
So when do you see a more orderly market? Like, do you even have that kind of visibility to say that, I don't know, it's going to be another year or it's going to be another 5 years? And it really is down to the federal government deciding on this.
I think we're within 5 years it'll be federally legal. Might even be sooner than that.
Recreational and medical, all of it.
Yeah, I believe that. I actually, in the short term, just from my own company's perspective, it's not bad that it is federally illegal.
Right.
Because I can establish my brand and presence in California,
right,
which is the largest legal market cannabis in the world.
All right, we're going to talk more about that and more about the broader opportunity here. Maybe get your view on the real estate business as well, because it's something we talk about here a lot, especially as it relates to the coast and especially California.
And selling shares to the public in a different way. Yeah. We're not talking about a traditional IPO, so we'll get into that as well.
We got lots more to talk about.
We do. Scott Goldie's going to stay with us. He's the CEO of Santa Cruz-based Golden Seed. Jason was in Santa Cruz over the summer. Really?
Yeah, over Christmas break.
Did you do some shopping?
Did some shopping. Right. Played some tennis.
All right.
This is Bloomberg Business Week.
This is Bloomberg Business Week.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks sold off as investors sought shelter from the spreading coronavirus epidemic. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 228. The S&P 500 dropped 35. The Nasdaq Composite tumbled 174. Fox is looking to plant its flag in the ad-supported streaming market. The Wall Street Journal reports Fox has expressed an interest in buying Tubi. The deal could be worth over $500 million. More troubles for Boeing's star-crossed 737 MAX. A software glitch discovered by Boeing engineers in 2017 caused a warning light not to work on most MAX jets, but the company didn't fix it or tell regulators. The FAA is considering a hefty civil penalty. Wells Fargo will pay $3 billion to settle federal investigations into more than a decade of consumer abuses. The bank admitted in 2016 that employees may have opened millions of fake accounts to meet sales goals. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/.
Pancake Day is flipping fun. Pancake Day is Stella. This day will be a yummy one.
'Cause pancakes love Nutella. Pancake Day is nearly here. Gather friends and family to enjoy some delicious pancakes on Tuesday, the 25th of February. And don't forget, pancakes love Nutella.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
This Monday, February 24th, the sports world celebrates the lives of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna with a memorial at Staples Center in Los Angeles.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
Buckle up for Kobe! Lakers repeat back-to-back titles!
Wherever you are Monday morning, you can listen live to Kobe's celebration of life on TuneIn. Beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Search Celebrating the Life of Kobe Bryant to honor the basketball legend and his family.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Happen to see on the water, well, you're going to have waves hitting it. You're going to have solar. How you're going to develop plants. How you're going to develop vegetation and farming. That sort of thought process happens at NJIT. We actually plan out what will the city look like. How do we develop that? So in 10 years, we're actually ready to take on those challenges when we have our first development in the water. NJIT also has been doing a lot of work in self-healing materials. So taking the polymers and the new material that we have in our material sciences departments and putting them into things like concrete, things like steel, reinforcing our soil.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
We make learning from the best possible every week.
That's not typical for a CEO, is it?
Barry Ritholtz hosts Masters in Business.
That's not an evolution?
Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, we're going to continue our conversation with Scott Goldie. He's the CEO of Golden Seed. We're going to talk about maybe a different way to approach the markets all around.
Speaking of markets,
let's get to Charlie Pellet. He's got what's going on after the market close.
Indeed, it was a down day on Wall Street. Let's begin there with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all declining on this Friday. Losing week as well for the U.S. stock market. Let's begin with today's. The S&P dropped 35 points, down by 1%. Finishing the week, heading into the weekend at 33.37. Look at the Dow, back below 29,000, down 227 points today. That was a decline of just about 0.8%, while the NASDAQ Composite Index fell 174 points, down by 1.8%. Well, as for the market backdrop, Lori Heinl is Deputy Chief Investment Officer at State Street Global Advisors.
So our view would be that bonds are more overdone than equities here. Again, a lot can happen. Certainly the comparisons to SARS would suggest that we're having a little bit of a bump in the road, and then coronavirus will dissipate, and that will provide sort of momentum into the economy. But, given that we haven't yet seen the peak in new cases, it's hard to know. But if we were to, put our money where our mouth is, we are still favoring risk assets, including equities.
And right now we've got the 10-year 1.46%, 30-year 1.91%, $35 bag fee gaining traction as airlines contend with the financial fallout of the grounding of the 737 MAX and a viral pandemic that has decimated travel to China. United increasing the charge for passengers' first and second check bags by $5 to $35. Another bag will cost you $45. Dropbox shares soaring after the company boosted both its 2020 and long-term operating margin. Dropbox shares rallied today up by just about 15%. So again, recapping here, S&P 500 index down 35 points, a drop there of 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massler along with Jason Kelly. It is, of course, Friday, and our guest at this hour is Scott Goldie. He's Chief Executive Officer of Golden Seed, as we mentioned earlier, based in Santa Cruz in our Interactive Brokers studio. So we'd be remiss because we want to talk to you about this approval that you got to do a nationwide public offering to offer shares to the public. Talk to us a little bit about this and why you chose this route.
Well, the capital markets in cannabis are difficult, and our company...
They're not friendly right now.
Very, very much so. So we self-funded until we got to the point where we're very close to turning the corner and going cash flow positive. We came to the market, the first cannabis company in the United States, to be qualified by the SEC to sell shares in our private company. Regulation A is unique in that you don't have to be an accredited investor. So we can sell to anyone in the United States or even in the world. So after a little bit, 5 weeks, we have about 1,200 people that have applied for investment. There's a clearing mechanism, so about 800, 700 official investors.
What's the clearing mechanism?
Background checks. You have to provide your ID. California requires that.
Okay.
It takes a couple weeks to clear. It's a very simple, straightforward process. Our website is owngoldenseed.com. You can pay with the credit card. Minimum investment of only $100. But the cool thing about it is it creates brand ambassadors for our lifestyle brand. And, to have national exposure before cannabis goes legally nationally, I mean, we're building a base in all these states.
So how has no one done this before?
I think people are intimidated by the fact the SEC is a federal agency. Yeah. And could you really get through that? And it's not inexpensive to do it. Right. And so we took the risk that we could get through it. A great securities counsel, Kendall Almerico, he's done other Regulation A offerings, and it's been a great experience.
And so is this a precursor to a more traditional IPO, or what does this get you from a financial perspective, and what happens next in that regard?
Well, this offering is, you can have it open for a year. Our offering is for $10 million. We can close it at any time if we want to look at changing the valuation.
How sticky is it? That, in other words, if someone makes an investment and then they decide, I don't want to be in it, is there a commitment or is it liquid? Can they get out of it?
They'd have to sell that to another individual.
So they'd have to find somebody.
There's not a market for it.
Right.
Okay.
But so our goal is to use this to reinvest in facilities, marketing and building the brand, and just keeping our debt low.
All right, so tell us about how you see this market growing for you. What does it mean to be a lifestyle brand? What does that mean in terms of different products? You mentioned hemp, but give us the whole portfolio as you envision it.
Well, what I'd like to say is that we're going to be one of the strongest vertically integrated companies in both hemp and in cannabis. And, early on when I was talking to private equity groups, being a cultivator is not going to be creating a lot of enterprise value.
Right.
Coca-Cola is going to buy a Gatorade. They're not going to buy a production facility per se at a big valuation. So for us, it's continuing to grow that brand, get exposures and stakeholders in other states. And we think that'll be very attractive, when the consolidation happens.
And you do anticipate that there's going to be more of it, or there has to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be economies of scale, right?
Yeah, we heard that from Curaleaf, that basically, we're at this moment where there are a lot of smaller players that are going to get sort of either put together somehow or another. So how expensive is expansion, though? Because you do have to be essentially vertically integrated state by state. You can't really have any kind of cross business, right?
We're not planning on going to any other states until there's potential to license our genetics in other states.
Okay.
We've been exploring that, but we won't be doing that anytime soon.
A lot of business in California at this point.
It's the largest legal market in the world.
What do you see as the biggest risk to your industry right now?
I think the regulatory risk and kind of the confusion around that causes a lot of expense, a lot of uncertainty, and it's really kind of random how they enforce.
And do you imagine that you will do acquisitions, there in California, because there are other smaller players, right?
Yeah, we're looking at some opportunities right now where we may bring some in under our umbrella.
Okay.
And I think, again, if you have a company that's looking to acquire, you have multiple lifestyle brands.
Right.
That'd be a good target. You also can combine your cultivation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is a classic sort of scale business in some ways, I would imagine.
But I do wonder about cash burn, right? As you wait for the regulatory environment, it's got to be kind of tough. Or is it?
Once we start our cultivation, our first harvest will be in May.
Yeah.
That'll be the turning point.
Okay. Hey, good to check in with you. Very interesting.
Come back and see us
and
as it grows up, as it were. All right, Scott Goldie
really?
is the
Did you
CEO. I did. Well, what did you do earlier? You did something earlier.
The deer
bucking the trend.
Bucking the trend.
I don't even see how you can criticize me for that.
That was a really bad one.
Scott Goldie is the Chief Executive Officer of Golden Seed, based out in Santa Cruz, California, here with us in New York City today. Coming up, we're going to get a preview of what we may hear from Mr. Warren Buffett when he puts out that much-read, much-anticipated letter this weekend.
Yeah, it's the annual report from the company and his letter, and everybody reads it over the weekend with their weekend coffee, with their Saturday coffee.
There you go.
All right, in the meantime, let's get back to World and National News headlines. Back over to Bob Moon we go in our New York newsroom. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Carol. Fresh worries from global health experts today over their inability to explain where some new coronavirus cases came from. And that was the description used, worrisome, by the World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. He said there are new cases turning up outside China with no clear links to people who traveled in that country or had contact with other confirmed cases. A new study estimates 2/3 of cases exported from China have gone undetected worldwide. Ghebreyesus told reporters in Geneva the UN Health Agency is determined to keep the virus contained.
We must not look back and regret that we failed to take advantage of the window of opportunity.
U.S. health officials say containment is critical since there is as yet no vaccine or medicine to treat the virus specifically. On the eve of the Nevada caucuses, Michael Bloomberg announced today he's now willing to release women from 3 non-disclosure agreements related to offensive comments they say he made. He came under withering criticism at this week's Democratic debate for refusing to do so. Bloomberg is founder and majority shareholder of Bloomberg Radio's parent company, Bloomberg LP. Jurors in Harvey Weinstein's rape trial told the judge today they may be deadlocked on one or both counts of the most serious charge facing him, predatory sexual assault. Conviction on that crime could put the 67-year-old movie mogul behind bars for the rest of his life. The jurors asked the judge if they could be hung on that charge. He told them to keep deliberating. They reported they were unanimous on counts of rape and a criminal sexual act without saying what they decided. Global News 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. The hard part was determining that I was going to do it, but I definitely didn't do it alone.
At age 30, with the help of her mentor, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
I have a mentor, Maria. She convinced me to continue my education and to finish what I started to get my diploma. Just never judges. She's a true role model. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President, Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize.
A half-price dream holiday. Wouldn't want to miss that. A takeaway for free. Wouldn't want to miss that. And 30 gigs data for just £10 a month on Smarty Mobile. You definitely don't want to miss that. Our Smarty SIM comes packed with 30 gigs of data and unlimited calls and texts for just £10 a month on a 1-month plan. That's why Smarty won Best Value SIM-only network in the USwitch Mobile Awards 2020. Don't miss out. Search Smarty Mobile. Smarty. Simple, honest mobile. Smarty.co.uk.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
This Monday, February 24th, the sports world celebrates the lives of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna with a memorial at Staples Center in Los Angeles.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
Buckle up for Kobe Bryant! The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles!
Wherever you are Monday morning, you can listen live to Kobe's celebration of life on TuneIn. Beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Search Celebrating the Life of Kobe Bryant to honor the basketball legend and his family.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and SIPC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters. I'm Charlie Pellet. It was a down Friday, losing week as well, with the S&P 500 index falling 35 points today, ending the week at 3337, a drop of 1%. Dow Industrial slumped 227 points, finishing off their session lows, but it was a drop of 0.8%, while Nasdaq fell 174 points, down by 1.8%. The 10-year up 12/30 seconds, yield 1.47%. Gold up 1.5% today, advancing almost $24 the ounce at $16.43. West Texas Intermediate crude down 1%, $53.36 a barrel. Again, recapping here, losing Friday, losing week as well. S&P down 35, a drop of 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
Lonely days ago, I'm a going home. My baby used to put me in bed.
My husband husband's favorite songs.
Really?
Yeah. It's is it the Box Tops or something? Or yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah, he loves that song.
Shout out, John. In any case, tomorrow morning, while Carol and I are, separately drinking our coffee, watching our own television show, Kat Chiglinski, she's going to be very busy reading a letter.
She'll already have had 5 cups of coffee because she's going to be busy working.
Up and at 'em, waiting to hear, as we all are, what Uncle Warren Buffett, has to say about the investment world. Kat is with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. What might we hear from Warren Buffett?
Well, it was kind of an interesting year. Truly, if you step back, it was a quiet year for Berkshire, right? They have a lot of cash, a record $128 billion. We'll get an update on whether that changed much. But, he was looking at things. He was repurchasing shares. He looked at Tech Data Corp as a potential acquisition. He reportedly passed on Tiffany. So there was a couple things brewing in the year that just really didn't come to fruition. And I think that's going to be kind of the heart of his letter. Berkshire hasn't been able to keep pace with the S&P. They had their worst years of underperformance versus the index.
Last year?
Since 2009. I mean, that's a long kind of, that's been a real struggle for them. And so I think investors, often they buy into the strategy that Buffett knows what he's doing and therefore let him be patient if things are really richly valued. But I think because of the way the underperformance is and the fact that we know he passed on Tech Data, I think that'll bring a lot of focus to this letter.
I mean, are investors okay with it so far? I mean, I just feel like we're living in interesting times. Jason and I talked about Masayoshi-san and SoftBank. Who would have ever thought that there would be an activist kind of pushing him to do certain things? And I do wonder what the investor climate is towards Warren Buffett.
Well, I think it sort of divides into 2 camps, right? There's a lot of people who buy into this fact that let him wait. During the dot-com era, that was sort of his biggest winning strength, is that he waited, and then when things plummeted, he could jump right in. But I think there is this growing impatience that the cash pile is way higher than like him or Munger would like. And he could do more. He could repurchase shares. He could, find other ways, maybe issue a special dividend or something to kind of relieve and put the money to work in some way.
Right.
And so I think people are sort of grappling with that of how much do you want to bet on the fact that maybe Buffett will pull another Buffett, another move that's made him famous, and how much is sort of the environment so different nowadays that he needs to find a new strategy.
And what about the next generation there? What do we know about them? What are we hearing? There's been a little bit of shuffling, notably Todd Combs going to run Geico in addition to his job that he has working for Warren Buffett. Like, some interesting stuff going on kind of behind the scenes at that very small team.
And this is why I think people love the annual letter, to parse the sort of read the tea leaves on what might happen. Because obviously Buffett is 89 and his business partner Charlie Munger is 96. Yeah. And so, I think arguably when they appointed Greg Abel and Ajit Jain to vice chairman roles in 2018, that was kind of the clearest signal we've gotten. Yeah, that, there is some lineup that they have. I think people often look to Greg Abel as potentially the most likely successor, but the Todd Combs thing in December, him being named to Geico CEO, was a real big curveball. And I think raises the potential that maybe there's some other people at Berkshire that we have historically not said, could be CEO, that might be kind of gaining in the ranks.
Who really pulls the levers when it comes to what investments? Is it ultimately still Warren, or is it his team? Who does it now?
Well, this is particularly interesting because it's definitely, Warren at the helm kind of directing a lot of things, but he doesn't direct it all. And I mean, you think about Todd Combs and Ted Weschler, the 2 investment deputies, they each control about $14 billion, which is a sizable amount of money. And they've also helped Buffett more on deals and other kind of aspects of the company. Todd Combs, now he runs Geico, but he's helped on the healthcare venture.
Right.
Ted Weschler has also helped on some deals, particularly there was one in Germany that he helped on. All of this is sort of raising the question of, how much are they doing behind the scenes, and is Buffett going to sort of give them even more kind of power?
One of the names I want to make sure we talk about underneath all this is Kraft Heinz, because we've watched it so closely. It's a partnership deal with 3G Capital, right? I mean, like, this is one of these things that, like, when they got into it, like, oh, cool, like, Warren Buffett and Berkshire are getting into this, and then it has just not gone the way they thought consistently. Like, every time you think like, oh, they're turning a corner, they do not turn that corner.
And I think this has been the craziest story of 2019 for them, right? Like, it hit last February where they had that write down. It was crazy news around the same time last year, and it never really sort of recovered. And in fact, actually, Berkshire's still carrying that investment at $13.8 billion on its balance sheet, but the market value at the end of September, when they last reported it, was about $4.7 billion less. So I think investors are very curious to see if they have to write that down a little bit. You know, I think with Kraft Heinz, all the issues, you know, outstanding here, it's really hard for Berkshire to exit an investment that they don't like because of their size, because of how huge they were.
And also kind of because of their ethos, right? Like, I mean, this is the Warren Buffett thing. It's like, you buy it, you hold it. I mean, this was his criticism, you know, having covered private equity for a long time. Like, he's been highly critical of private equity, of saying they don't love companies enough, they don't hold them for long enough, they're in and out, even when in and out is 5%.